Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 5 of Stage Side Podcast. I'm here with Kevin Boutot from the Acacia Strain. How's it going, Kevin?
Yeah, well, it's going. It's a
Good.
nice sunny yet chilly Wednesday afternoon here in the great state of New York.
We got that here in Utah. It's cold when the wind blows, but if you're standing still and there's no wind, it's pretty nice. There's good sun ray right
Yeah.
now.
So we've had like last week it was very, very cold, like in the 20s or like the teens, and then we had this crazy ice storm. But this past week it kind of warmed up. So like right now it's like 35 degrees. So I walked to the gas station down the street in just my t-shirt, like, and it felt like it was a spring day.
Yeah,
Snow all around, but it's nice though that it's finally starting to melt a little bit. But
it's nice. We get that here too, where you can be in jeans and like a t-shirt and just be comfortable. But then obviously, once it starts to drop, it's brutal. Are you upstate?
yeah, I live right outside of Albany.
Okay.
So basically, all right, so if you're from New York, literally anything above New York City is upstate. But then you get the people that live like in Westchester County, that's right above New York City. They call us upstate and they call themselves downstate. But then it's so yeah, if you want to say I'm in upstate New York, then yes, that's the answer. But then
Okay.
when you're here, everything below us is downstate, no matter what it is. And then you have the North Country, which is just, beyond the Adirondacks, and then Western New York, where like Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse is. There's your little geography lesson for
Yeah.
New York.
My uncle lives just outside of Buffalo. And when he first moved, I was super young. I told somebody, I was like, oh, yeah, it's like upstate New York. And they're like, no, that's Western New York. It's like not the
Yeah.
same. It's sectioned off. And I was like, well,
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like people will get like super like offended if you say the wrong thing. It's like, relax, calm down. But I will say it's the same thing. Like, 'cause I'm from Connecticut, born and raised in Connecticut, so I'm a New England guy at heart. But then when someone tries to say New York's part of New England, then I'm like, whoa, no, it is not.
yeah.
You are not part of New England. You are New York. That's complete. I know we're bordering each other, but no, you can't say that. We're
Yeah,
not the
no.
same.
I'm originally from Baltimore. So Maryland has like the
Okay.
whole DMV thing, DC, Maryland, Virginia. But it like when you move out of there, it's very much a regional thing. But when you live there,
Right.
it's very much a state specific thing. Like people that are from DC, which obviously lies within Maryland, and even PG County, they'll still say, like, oh no, I'm DC. And then if you're from Maryland, it's like, no, I'm from
Yeah.
Maryland. And then Virginia, you have Northern Virginia and Virginia. But it's like when you leave, I guess it's kind of the same as like New England and New York. It's like when you're there, you're like, no, this is this. But then when you leave, you're like, okay, like we have some collaborative, we have something in common, but it's not, once you get back home, it's like, no, you're on your own. Like we're completely separate.
Yeah.
So the Acacia Strain now, I believe you guys are pretty spread out across the country, all the members, correct?
Yeah. The only people that live close, like Vincent lives like 45 minutes north of me. We're the only ones that live anywhere close to each other. We're both in New York. And then we got one in North Carolina. And then we got Griffin out in Iowa. I don't know why it's taking so long to figure this out. And then Devin's out in California. So yeah, we're pretty spread out.
How has that affected, I guess, one, the recording process, and then also the practice process before touring?
So the way this band has pretty much always been when it came to practicing, I'd say for the entirety that I've been in the band, which has been a long time now, we everybody practices by themselves. Even when we were a local, everyone was around the same area. We usually just everyone kind of fends for themselves and practices by themselves. Like I'd just go at a jam spot and have headphones on and play along with the records. Everyone can sit at home and play on their computers, along with the record. And then we usually get together now, especially everyone's so spread apart. We'll get together like a week or so before a tour and just kind of go through everything, 2-3 times a day until tour starts to hash out all the stuff. And now that we're using, playing to a click track and in-ears, there's a lot more to hash out and iron out and knock the rust off before tours now. But for all of us, it's like riding a bike. So, once we all start playing together and everything locks in pretty quickly. And you know, it's second nature to us at this point. So that's nice knowing that.
That's one thing I was going to ask. I'm not a musician. I can strum a few, chords on an acoustic guitar, and that's about it. I mean, I'm definitely like full blown into music, go to almost every show I can, like dive in deep. But
Mhm.
when it comes to the actual musicianship, I just don't have it. But I did see that someone asked you on Instagram about playing to a click track and a metronome, or a click track and using in ears. And then you said that it was just more beneficial for the actual musicians. I guess what is, because I know some would be freaking out. They're like, oh no, I want to hear about that. What's the benefit to that? What's the difference, the adjustment?
So I'll start with by saying how, the headliner we just did in the November and December 2021, that was our first time ever using, well, that one show we had last August with Ghost Inside. That was our first show ever in the entirety of this band playing to a click track and having in ears. So it was very nerve wracking. But I'd say not even 10 seconds into it, it was like, holy shit. Like we've been trying to do punk rock style and like just going up there and playing our shit like for all this time, and we could have been doing this. Like, for one, having the click track obviously keeps you perfectly on tempo. Everyone's on the same page. And then being able to hear everybody so perfectly, being able to hear my drums perfectly and not having to rely on some, if my drum wedge works or not, or if they can put certain frequencies through it. And it's just, everything is just so controlled. It's so isolated. I don't have to have my ears blasting. It could just be like a moderate volume, but I can hear literally everything that's going on. And it's honestly, it blew my mind, like, on how amazing it was. And now that we do it, I can never go back, especially with this band. I will never go back to playing without them. It's an absolute no at this point. Everybody plays better. We sound better. Vincent, for one, he was against it for a second. Like, he didn't want to get the in ears after we decided to do it, and then he was like, whatever, I'll get them. And him especially, like this last tour, he's never sounded as good as he sounds right now, because he can actually hear himself. He's never straining. Like, he could, same thing, have it on like a somewhat lower volume, but he's not straining to hear himself, which is, that's the most important thing for a singer. They need to be able to hear what they're doing, and it's, partly psychological too. But the fact that he can hear himself, he doesn't have to strain. He could go through, we were playing each city 2 nights, playing 2 completely different sets, and he was able to knock both of them out like perfectly every single night. So one thing I will say, every band, if you are thinking about doing click tracks, there's cheap ways to do it, and then there's really stupid expensive ways to do it. I would suggest doing that stupid expensive way, because that's the way we went about it. And it's one of those things where you do it once, and you're never going to have to really fix anything. Some things might go wrong, switch out a cable here and there, or get something serviced, which you have to do with everything anyhow. But do it right once, and you should never really have to do it again. But yeah, in-ears, definitely probably the best upgrade that we've done in this band, I think, ever. And everybody was saying, friends of ours on this last tour, seeing videos, and even us hearing ourselves back, because we were able to record our sets. It was just like, why haven't we been doing this longer? It was crazy to see how fast we progressed just by switching to in-ears and playing with a click.
It's made you play better overall and made you a better musician.
Oh yeah. And playing with the click and knowing, exactly where you are, like time-wise in the song and everything. I've never been so relaxed while playing also, because it's keeping me even, where, even when I have adrenaline, pumping right at the beginning of the set, normally without a click track, I'd be, kind of playing a little faster with things because the adrenaline's going. But now with the click track, like, that adrenaline's still there, I'm still pumped up, ready to play, but at the same time, there's like this calming, relaxing factor to it also, like knowing that I'm playing this thing perfectly on time. This is going to be, it sounds great. It feels great. Like, holy shit, this fucking rules right now. Like it brings a whole different dynamic to everything. It makes me even more excited to play. And I don't know if a lot of drummers like doing this too, but for me with the click track, it's like playing a game, to try to make sure to stay on it as perfect as possible. So it makes it, and there's not enough good things I can say about a click track. It's just, in playing with in-ears, it's just really the best.
That's good to know, because like I said, from the non-musician side, I've seen people talk about it, and then like you see the people online that are you know just old and pissed off about everything, and they're complaining about bands using it, and then you see people who are all into the tech gear and everything are like, no, this is perfect, and then you got people in the middle. But I never knew what the difference was, especially with in-ears. So even with in-ears, do you feel like it's better when you're hearing long term, because you said you don't have to blast it as loud?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So because especially if you like, because we all got molded ears, so like they fit in our ear canals perfectly. Like they don't go like super far in or anything, but they fill in everything around, as they go in. So you can still hear outside stuff, but all those frequencies that would be literally tearing your eardrums apart are no longer there. Like, me constantly crashing on a china, those frequencies aren't just stabbing me in the brain anymore. Same thing on like a crash, or the frequencies that come off cymbals. And if you're not using ear protection, which I didn't use for many years, which is stupid, not smart, but that's also one of those things where it's like, oh, I can't hear myself if I have earplugs in. Oh, it's obviously, yes, you could definitely still hear yourself. It's just it's a psychological thing. But yeah, it's there's really no other way to do it. It's the in-ears are the best. It saves you so many things. It keeps you playing perfect, keeps your hearing intact, and yeah, they're really the best. So shout out 64 Audio for making the greatest in-ears that exist.
It's good to hear. I'm glad you guys found something that
Yeah.
works. And so
Yeah.
that's another thing I wanted to ask. I was watching an interview with Tommy Lee, and he was talking about, how he would stagger his indulgences on stage, because he was saying, like, if I'm playing too fast, if I'm playing too slow, like it throws everyone off. So I
Mhm.
guess kind of before you talked about, but you're more on time now, but just overall as a drummer, where is that in prior? Because there's so many things going on. You got both feet, both hands, your whole body's moving. Obviously, you're
Yeah.
keeping the rhythm. Is that something that's in the forefront of your mind when you're playing, or is this like you've been doing it so
Oh,
long that
absolutely.
okay?
So even though I've been playing drums since I was 4 or 5 years old. My dad played, so I basically just learned from watching him, and it was just fascinated me. So I was like, I need to learn how to do this. But yeah, it's definitely, even now with the click track, it's still the forefront of my mind. It was even more so back before using it, like where I would always try to pretend there was like a click track in my head, and then I would try to, because I knew with the adrenaline I'd be playing faster, so I would try to intentionally play a tiny bit slower to compensate for the fact that I knew I'd be playing a little faster. And depending on the night, sometimes that worked out. Sometimes I would just be like too excited and just you're ripping through the songs. Or there'd be some nights where I wouldn't be as excited, and trying to compensate for playing faster, and to play slower to compensate for playing faster, I was definitely playing a little slower. So yeah, it's always, any drummer, the answer to this question should always be yes, that's very much in the forefront of your mind, because we're carrying the tempo for everyone. Like everyone's got to go off us, even if we are playing too fast, they got to stay with us, because if the guitar players and the bass player try to slow it down and I don't hear it, then that's just a giant mess. So it's kind of fun in a way that I control everything. Like I used to be able to, like in that song Impaler, there's that one section in the middle where it's kind of a little off timey and just like a china and like crash hits, like accents, where I used to, some shows, I would just keep that going for a long time, because they know the cue that when I do this certain snare roll, that's when it goes into the next part. So I can literally carry that part going for forever if I wanted to, and they can't change until I change, until I give the cue. So there'd be, I wouldn't do it very often, but some nights if we were having a little extra fun or something like that, or if it was, kind of like a dud of a show to kind of just entertain ourselves a little bit on stage, I would keep that going. There was a couple other songs too. I can't think of that off the top of my head right now that I used to be able to do that, where I could just keep it going, and they had no choice but to just stay on with me. And they would eventually realize after like a couple extra ones, you'd see them kind of, I could tell like their body language is changing a little bit. They're like, it just feels like this is going long. And then like another one goes, and then they're all like turning back, looking at me, and I'm just waiting with a smirk on my face for them to look at me.
So just letting them know you run the show from back there.
Yeah, but unfortunately I can't do that anymore with the click track. So now now I have to pay even more attention to make sure I don't play an extra part or not, because the tempo is gonna change a little bit late, like, not far from there for the next part. So, but yeah, it was fun always having the control back there, being the captain.
So it sounds like the in-ears have leveled the playing field a little bit. It took some of your control.
Yeah, now our computer is the captain.
Fair enough. So what is the recording process, or I guess more the writing process now? I know you said that you guys get together and you'll play for a few days before the tour, but as far as the writing process, especially being so spread out, do you guys get together, or is it something where you are all working on, certain patterns, or, somebody has a certain guitar riff they want to put in? And then also, how does it tie in with Vincent doing the vote? Like, does he come to you with, hey, I have lyrics for this song, this is kind of how I want it to sound, or does he just send just the raw lyrics and you all come off with something off of that?
So one thing I say is Dropbox is our best friend. I have zero knowledge basically when it comes to like recording anything or like putting things on putting an idea into the computer and sending it off. So it's, mostly our string guys will have riffs or song ideas, and they'll just record them quickly and put some sort of like quick little drum parts to it, and then put it into a Dropbox. And then, we'll all respectively listen to things and kind of drill things into our heads. So when we do get a chance to get together, we can be like, all right, let's go over, this working title song. And then once that kind of gets to a point where we hit a roadblock, we'll take a break, and then we'll go to a different piece to try to work on. So yeah, everything is basically sent around virtually, and we don't actually really write in person until kind of like it's crunch time. We definitely, all of us work really well under pressure. So especially like with Slow Decay, same thing, everything was getting put into a Dropbox. We didn't have much time to really sit down with each other to, just hash things out. So we got together at Griffin Studio in Des Moines for maybe about 2 weeks, and then kind of put the finishing touches on everything. Which was, kind of insane to think that it took, it was like 2 weeks of time that we really solidified all those songs on that record. And some of them were written, in a day before it was time to really start tracking. So yeah, to say that we work well under pressure is a little bit of an understatement. I would say we work very well that way. But right now I'd say, our Dropbox is, you could go like this and on the scroll, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, a lot of really good stuff too. When it comes to lyrics, Vincent, like when it's time to, he's kind of always writing something, or always had like, he'll think of a concept or an idea that he wants to like base his lyrics on for like a record. So normally he'll kind of just pitch to us where he wants to go lyrically, and like say like story wise or concept wise, and that will have an effect on the thought process of like how riffs are going to get placed and how we're going to piece things together. But normally we won't see or read or hear lyrics until it's time for him to track them. And that's usually a treat because, like, especially with Slow Decay. And then, like, when we were here, because with It Comes in Waves, especially, like, that one was, recorded very unconventionally, I would say. I recorded my drums before the tour in 2019 we did with Knocked Loose. I did my drums at Griffin's studio, and then everything else besides vocals were done on days off at Airbnbs. So that record was literally recorded like everywhere. Like, there's, my drums were done in Des Moines, and then Tom did all the bass one day, and or did all like the rhythm guitars in San Diego, and that's on the day off that we had at an Airbnb. And then Griffin did all his bass one day at a day off that we had in Texas somewhere, and then Devin did his stuff on one day off that we had somewhere. So we got it done. It was basically the only way we could do it for the timeline that we had on getting it done. And I feel like that also all played into how the feel of everything on that record. It was done in so many different places, a lot of stress behind getting it done too. So I think that kind of conveyed into how everybody played. But when we were getting like the rough vocals and like cuts and stuff like that, when like I was getting every point, I was just straight goosebumps after hearing some of the stuff Vince was doing, like his changing his voice, and then like hearing what his lyrics were. And it was just like, holy fucking shit, man. And then like with Slow Decay, and previous records, we'd all be sitting there, he's in his vocal booth or whatever in another room, and we're all in the control room just sitting there. And then whoever's recording us hits that space bar, the track starts going, and we're hearing what he's saying and like how he's phrasing things, and it's like, what the fuck, man, like holy shit. Like that dude never ceases to amaze me when it comes to his writing and the concepts he thinks of for doing stuff. So not every band has a Vincent Bennett, that's for sure. There's a lot of bands that it's a big collaborative effort when it comes to ideas and concepts and writing, but that dude's got a brain unlike many people, and we're definitely very, very fortunate to have him at the helm, I guess you could say. But he's the leader, as someone called him once on this past tour, where he was walking through the crowd and someone was like, "Oh my God, that's the leader right there." It was like, the leader? I thought we were all one here. The leader? That was funny. So yeah, we would, he'd bust his chops every once in a while calling him the leader, which he didn't like very much, but love you, Vincent.
Pretty solid sounding title. And I've noticed my first Acacia Strain show was 2006 or 2007 at the Auto Bar in Baltimore.
Were we with Between the Bear to Me, Red Chord?
No, so it was See You Next Tuesday, Job for a Cowboy, and Death. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. 2 A's.
And was Psyopus was on that too? Yep. That was our first like full US headliner that we ever did, and it was crazy. At Job for a Cowboy played under us. And that was when they were starting to just explode.
Yeah, with what was it, Knee Deep and Doom?
Yeah,
I went kind of crazy with that. But yeah, that was my first heavy show. I won't put a core genre or anything on it, but heavy. And over the past few years, I've went back and I've tried to recall every show I've went to, and I made an Excel like spreadsheet.
Oh no.
And it's pretty funny. And so I was 16 at the time for that one. I've always been into music. Like my mom and my dad are both huge, not musicians, but huge into like, diving into full bands and everything. So I made the list, and it's like my first concert was like Backstreet Boys. And then again, this was, like 7, 8 years old when they were white hot superstars. It was like Backstreet Boys, then NSYNC, then Britney Spears, then Christina Aguilera, where Destiny's Child opened for her. And that was at Darien Lake in New York, at the Six Flags.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then I went to some like big radio festival thing they had in Baltimore where the Baha Men headlined. And then
wait, that's Who Let the Dogs Out, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So got to see those legends. And then there was a couple year drop off. And then I went to a show in Baltimore, just outside of Baltimore City, in a place called Towson, where All Time Low played. And it was like a church rec center. And it was
Hmm.
right as they were like bubbling, like right before, their rocket ship took off. And I remember seeing them and I was like, okay, because again, that's like when music started to shift for me. I'd like my dad, I'd always been in like AC/DC, Metallica, and all that growing up. But then, I went through that like heavy rap phase, some country, like kind of all over the place, but didn't know. And like obviously Blink because they were superstars forever, but didn't know like much of the alternative or non-mainstream metal stuff. So like I got
Yeah.
into All Time Low, and then a couple weeks later I seen them on MTV, and I was like, oh, I guess they're blowing up now. And then there was like a
Yeah.
year between that, and then I went to the Acacia Strain show at the Auto Bar, and at that point I was like, okay, I was like, this is where I'm at.
This is where I belong.
Yeah, I was like, these are the shows I like. I like the smaller, more intimate club. Auto Bar is probably like my favorite venue of all time.
Dude, we haven't played there in years, and I don't know why, but I would love to play that place again.
Yeah, it's so small, but it has that little balcony, and then it has like the side step over on the other side of the room, and
Hmm.
then there's like the little. It's not really a second floor, but it's like a half. It's like a split level floor in the back. But
Yep.
I hadn't even heard the Acacia Strain before that show. I went. My buddy gave me. He put like some See You Next Tuesday on my iPod, like the iPod Nano, and he was like, "Here, this band's insane. Check this out." And I listened. I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "This is nuts. What is this?" And then I went on Google and I was like looking up shows, and then I seen that you guys were coming, and then I've told everybody, and like my wife knows how excited I'm. Like the Acacia Strain, like they're my top heavy band of heavy bands ever.
Oh shit.
So
Well, I appreciate that, man.
yeah,
It always it's always it's very humbling when I hear somebody say that, because to me, I'm just a guy that's playing some drums in the band. Like, it still blows my mind, almost 18 years later, that either that, I'm in someone's favorite band, or that I'm someone's favorite drummer. Like, I'm just, oh no, get out of here. It's not gonna off with that. Like it's still, I don't know if you can hear my dogs back there, but
no,
they're being little shits. I have two chihuahuas. I have one little 4 pound chihuahua that's a girl, and then the boy Buster. He's a mix, but he's like 12, 13 pounds, and he's always trying to steal her spot in their bed, and she'll just lay there and growl at him. So that's what was just going on over there. But yeah, man, it's definitely very humbling whenever I hear somebody say something like that. So thank you for being a
cool.
fan, and considering us your favorite. That's just mind blowing to me still. So yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for all the art over the years, and that's what I was gonna say too. I feel like the Acacia Strain. It's one of those bands where if I just want to listen to something heavy, but not get like too introspective, or I mean, obviously there's always feeling with music, but even if I'm just, on a road trip or something and I would just want to hear something heavy, I can listen to it. But then it's also, especially this is speaking to, like you were saying, like when you hear the stuff Vincent's putting out, it just blows your mind, like the lyrical content, the themes. It's also that stuff you can put on where it's like I'm having a super bad day and I'm pissed off and hate the world, or hey, I'm not feeling the hottest today, mentally, blah, 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 whatever it is, you can listen and kind of takes you through those range of emotions where it's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad, whatever.
Hmm.
Somehow through that, I think some people would be like, well, why would you want to listen to something heavy and dark if you're not feeling good? But I don't know, by proxy, some way it makes things better.
Right.
And with that, one of the main reasons I brought up the show, the first show that I seen you guys at the Auto Bar, when you were saying the way Vincent can change his voice and everything. I mean, obviously, he's been the Acacia Strain from the beginning, but it's just any record or especially live, I've been amazed at how well his voice has held up, and like he's still able to hit those different ranges. Or even I seen you guys here in Salt Lake at the Complex for the Halloween show, and then for the Continent 10 year.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. The when we all dressed up as Peter Steele.
Yeah, I have.
That one.
I'll have to find him. I got on my computer. I got hilarious video from that where like I didn't record every song, and I know some people get mad when people are recording at concerts, but it's like If it's a certain song, I'll definitely record it. Some songs I'll just record like a quick part of it, and then sometimes I won't have my phone out at all. But when everyone had the wigs on, and I don't know if I posted, I'll have to go back and find it. But everyone in the band's wig came off at a different time. Like you guys didn't take them off in unison or anything. Yours, I got a video definitely of you just going crazy and everything. And then like when you headbang, yours just goes up over you. And then Tom hit like when he's headbanging, his goes down low. And then like you see Griffin trying to throw his around. I
Yeah.
think Devin might have just took his off and threw it. I
Yeah,
think
my
Vincent
stick
threw
kept
his into
getting
the
stuck in
crowd.
the hair. And my stick kept getting stuck in the hair, and I was like, I can't deal with this, man. This thing's gotta go.
Yeah, it looked
Yeah.
I think the most difficult for you because yours was just obviously you're moving, a lot more than most, but it was just
Yeah, it
everywhere.
was
But it was funny looking through the progression. It was like, oh, all the members have long hair. Now one member doesn't. Now another member doesn't, and it just went through.
yeah.
But yeah, even at those shows when when he's doing highs or lows, or even you see him do it live sometimes where he'll just hold the mic and he'll just kind of like move his head and do this. I don't even know, but it's almost like when a kid's just yelling and the voice is just going
Yeah.
around. So it's cool that you guys still get excited to be able to hear those different ranges and those
Oh
lyrics
yeah.
in the studio.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a treat.
So I was going to ask with It Comes in Waves, what was that like as far as writing because obviously there's individual tracks on it, but it's one long song broken up and kind of meant to be listened to straight through. Was that wildly different than recording for any other album where every song doesn't have to bleed into the other one or have anything to do with the song beforehand?
Um, so all right, so with the writing process with that one, they wrote that mostly in the year of 2018, which is the year that I took that entire year off because I had a lot of stuff going on at home. And I mentioned this before the podcast to you, but like tomorrow is I'm celebrating 4 years of sobriety. But it was in
Congratulations.
2018 where thank you. It was in 2018 where the rock bottom moment happened for me where I had a lot of shit to take care of at home that stemmed from that. So I wasn't physically there or really was hearing too many things as it was getting written until basically it was almost done in time for me to like really start writing drums to it. So for me that one, and when you want to talk about like being blown away by something, like I knew what the concept was. I knew the direction and everything. It was, super experimental. We're going to do this one big long song thing about like interdimensional beings, and it's going to be cool and all about outer space and, all this super cool shit. But when it finally came to me and I heard it all, like as that one big piece, I was just like, I can't believe that this came out of my band members' brains and got, they were able to record this. I was just like, holy shit. So there's a lot of holy shit moments, I guess you can say, that come from hearing what these guys write. But it was just, especially a year of taking a year off, not really being super involved in things because I had a lot of personal things to take care of. So it was better that I just kind of separated myself from the band in a way, almost completely. But yeah, it was definitely hearing that like got me so excited to get back to being back and playing and knowing that that's going to be the first time like we actually sit down and play together again is going to be me recording those drums for that. I think the end of that year we had like a little week long run of Christmas shows, and that was basically my welcome back to playing with the band. But yeah, man, It Comes in Waves that's definitely the most different, I would say, as far as the whole writing process went, where they wrote the whole thing and it was done, and then I heard it and was completely blown away, and then I was like, shit, now I have to try to write some you know, I know it was mostly a doom record, so there's not the most craziest, most impressive, drumming throughout it, because there's only one way to really play along with doom riffs, and that's slow doomy drums.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, it was something, man. It was definitely, it made me feel, you know, excited and proud again, basically to be part of something.
Was it difficult to play in that doom style? Like, do you listen to a lot of doom records on your own, or?
If you can tell, especially since Coma, which, um, with Observer being basically a 30-minute doom song, we're all very big fans of doom.
Okay.
Like Sleep, the band Sleep, Earth, Monolord, bands like that. Those are like, that's mostly what we're listening to in the band. If it's not some sort of like silly pop or like Wolfpack or stuff like that, or podcasts, we're most of the time going to be listening to something that's doomy. It's just the same chord rung out with, for 45 seconds and two snare hits in between.
I've never known much about it, but I had someone show me Bell Witch, and
oh, dude, that band rules.
Yeah, I've listened to them in bits, but it's definitely a genre I need to like dive into. And
listen to Dope Smoker by Sleep.
Okay.
That's one where that's an hour-long song. It's just one song and it's an hour long. And there's silly stories that go along with that. Like they got a whole bunch of money given to, I don't know if this is true, because they're a big like stoner band. Like they're like Matt Pike, the main guy, he's known for being like a huge pothead and everything. I think the whole band anyway. And the whole record is about like this like race of beings that are, fueled by weed, and like they're going across this endless desert to find like more weed or something. But anyway, it's like there's a story which like I said, I don't know if it's exactly true or not, but it was a major label gave them, like 6-figure budget to record that record, and they spent, most of it on weed and party essentials, and then delivered them this 1 hour long song that's just about this race of beings looking for weed. And they're like, what the fuck is this? So, but I mean, that's a pretty fucking cool story if you ask me. Getting a whole bunch of money from a label to record what would be a major release, and then you just kind of say fuck you and smoke a bunch of weed and then write a 1 hour long doom song as your record.
I mean,
that's pretty great if you ask me.
That's definitely staying true to yourself as well. It's not
oh yeah,
you're like, hey, if you're gonna give us a bunch of money, we're gonna spend on weed and play one long song. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure, here you go. And then a couple months later, they're like, here's your one long song. What would you do with the rest of the money? Well, we smoked it all. We told you what we were gonna do.
Yeah, well, hey, it's a full length record. It's 60 minutes long, man. Like, what do you want from us? But all their records are great. I think you should, if you want to dive deep. Also, another band called Warning. They have a record called Watching from a Distance. That's some woman out there broke that man's heart bad, because that record's it's definitely about getting, fucked up after a relationship. But yeah, if you ever see, doom is one of those things too, where it's like could be very depressing, like that Warning record. The subject matter and the way the riffs are, it just feels depressing. But that's another thing where it's like, it can, how you were saying, when you could put our records on and it's not necessarily happy music, but it could rejuvenate your mood back to, it can make you feel better.
Right.
It's the same thing with like a lot of doom stuff. For me, it's a lot of people would assume it's going to make you more down, but at the same time, it's doing the actual opposite. So
yeah, I'll have to check those out. And like I said, I'll dive farther into those, because what I have heard.
Yeah, I'll shoot you a message after this with a few, like maybe like 5 or 6 records that you should check out that I feel like you would enjoy, especially if you like the Comes and Waves. There's, parts in that record you'll hear probably where it was influenced from the records I send you to check out.
Okay, cool.
So, especially a lot of the doomier stuff, and like Observer on Coma, which that's, you'll definitely hear the inspiration from those songs.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that it wasn't well, I guess it was a new like a new artistic venture for the whole band, but it wasn't anything that was new to you guys, but it was something that you were looking forward to doing and then kind of came naturally to
Exactly.
you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
then after that came out Slow Decay, which I think was probably one of the coolest release formats that I've seen maybe ever, definitely in a long time. So with, for anyone that doesn't know, it was released what, in 7-inch increments, like over, was it
Yep.
every 2 weeks or every month?
So for a while, it was, I think, every 3 weeks. And then I think it was when A was supposed to come out, everybody was like, oh, we're wait, or maybe, yeah, I think it was either C or A. Because that was definitely A, because we had the first three came out in the same time increments. And everybody's like, oh, Acacia Strain's gonna put out another 7-inch, gonna put out another 2 more songs. And then we didn't. And then they were like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, what is this supposed to spell? It's just DEC, like deck. What the fuck is that? And I think we spaced that out to 4 weeks. And then once Y came out, then we released the fact that, even though you have these 5 7 inches, we're still putting out all these songs, but on a full length that's going to have even 2 more songs on it. So, and that was also that entire rollout plan. That was all Vincent.
Was it?
And yeah, and I remember him, briefly explaining it to someone about how, like, he remembers, and I do too, like going to record stores and going to shows like in the early 2000s. And the way you found out about bands, especially hardcore bands and heavier bands, was, you grab their 2-song 7-inch for like, $3-4 at the record store. And then you get your paper flyer for the upcoming shows for each respective venue that would put on shows in your area. So, you didn't have the internet to look at everything. You didn't have streaming to just check out your band's new favorite single. So it was kind of like a throwback to how things once were when it came to hearing bands like in our realm. You'd get your 7-inch single, which was the cool way. Like, a lot of hardcore bands put out their songs like that, which I always thought was the coolest way. So yeah, it was kind of like a shout out and a throwback to how things used to be when it came to hearing new music from bands. And he took that idea and he was like, all right, this is gonna sound crazy, but we're gonna release 5 7-inches and then a full length, and have 2 songs on each, and have the full length with all those songs plus 2 more to make it more enticing for people to buy that. And also this whole plan came up before COVID even hit, like before COVID was even a thing. This was like a whole year before, because we recorded Slow Decay, the summer before. Like all the guitars, all that stuff was done, and I did my drums like a month later or so. Because we did the recording process for that a little backwards. Normally drums go first and everybody else goes after that. This time it was everybody went first, and me and Randy LaBeouf sat down and we kind of mapped out fake drums and everything. And then I went and recorded the real drums, after they were all done. Which it was the first time we ever did that. And it was I like that way better too, doing the drums afterwards, because it gives me more time listening to stuff and I can think of more ideas to do. Because there's every record I'll listen to it afterwards, like, I could have done this cool little fill there, or I could have done this different little accent thing there. So yeah, I definitely would like to keep recording records like that. But yeah, this whole rollout for it was all thought up of before COVID, and it was like a blessing in disguise because it kept us relevant throughout the whole, first 6 months or so of COVID. So it kept people still interested and on their toes. And it's weird to think that we've only done one tour on that record, and it came out 2 years ago now, almost.
Kind of serendipitous the way it lined up. And because normally, when a band would drop a record, they'll announce it however long beforehand, then there's the buzz, and then there's the buzz when it comes out. And it's not, I don't want to say it's just like a 2 to 4 week thing and then people just move on, because obviously people listen to music forever. But it feels like that rollout just kept the excitement rolling for, well, I guess it was kind of a combination of the pre-release excitement and the actual release
Hmm.
excitement, because you're waiting for a band, you're like, they'll put out one or two songs, you're like, okay, what's the rest of the record going to sound like? What's it going to sound like? And then you get it all at once. You're obsessed with it for however long, and then it just kind of rolls on. But this one, you had the hype of, okay, well, the first one's out, but there's something else coming. And then you're like, okay, this one's out, but
Yeah.
then something else is coming. And then instead of a 1 to 2 month hype, like you said, it's stretched out for months and months, where especially at a time where bands weren't putting much out and there was no touring at all. There were some bands doing
Yeah.
live streams, but it was like it kept that
Hmm.
that hype rolling for a long time and made it exciting for everyone.
Yeah. It was definitely an experiment. We had no idea how it was gonna end up being. I mean, regardless of how, even if it even if it flopped, it's still a different new way to put music out. And like Vincent will say, like, now that we did this, like we can't ever really put out our normal record again. We can't. Every time we do something, we're gonna have to try to figure out something new and different and cool, you know, a way to put stuff out. So
Yeah.
we kind of screwed ourselves a little bit, but
It was worth it though.
well, he screwed himself because he's the brainchild behind all the really cool ideas when it comes to stuff like that. So he has to put in overtime now to figure out how we're going to do stuff. And for uh, the next record that we're going to be doing, which I know nobody's really publicly said anything about this, but like I know recently a magazine put out an article saying that we're supposed to be releasing something this year, like this summer. I don't know where they heard that from. I think they were just assuming, since we usually put out a record every 2 years. But I guess I'll say that that's definitely not. There's definitely no record coming out this spring. That's for
Okay.
sure. But
But there is something new in
yeah,
the works though,
he's
correct?
there's always something
Okay,
in the
good.
works. It's just a matter of when it's going to be fully in the works. And the world is so different now because of COVID. It's everything is, nothing's the same. So we have to still figure things out when it comes to that. But yeah, I think it's pretty crazy how it just worked out for us with the pandemic hitting and us being able to just coincidentally have this cool record rollout planned, that everybody being home and being able to build that hype. Like we released D at the end of February of last year, or not last year, 2 years ago. Like it's COVID put just this weird, uh, you know, almost like it's like a time that is just an entire year is just gone. Like anything that happened in 2020, I still feel like happened last year.
Yep.
Like it's just, especially when you're so used to things going a certain way for so long. And then you have a whole, basically, how long was it? I think it was a year and a half, a year and 7 months since we had last like been on tour, which is the longest the band has ever been home
Right.
since we've been touring. So it was very, it was hard on everybody mentally for sure. But
With that time off, I know we were talking beforehand. You actually got your real estate license during that time, correct?
I did, yeah. So I was doing, I was doing little things here and there, and I was doing Instacart, which I don't know if you guys have that out in Utah. It's
Yeah.
basically an Uber for grocery shopping. So I'd go out and scan people's groceries, and I'll tell you, man, when that pandemic first hit, people were throwing out like 20s, 50s, $100 cash for tips, and it was like, thank you so much for risking your life for buying my groceries. And it's like, no, thank you, please. Like this is great. Making like a couple, like there was some weeks where I'd do like $300-400 a day in between cash tips and like getting paid on the app. So it was like, this is pretty fucking sick. Like I'll go buy people's groceries for like, up to almost a couple grand a week sometimes. So I was like, this is fucking sick. And then, the pandemic was just dragging on and kept going. And then those big cash tips were turning into like $5-10 cash tips. And it was like, blue moon if you got a $20 cash tip at a certain point. I was like, man, I need to figure something else out. And then Dan Burke that used to play drums in Straight from the Path, he became a realtor like 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember seeing that he announced he was leaving for that.
Yeah, he left the band to become a realtor because he realized how fruitful the industry could be. And he left to pursue that full time. So I remember sitting on the phone with him for like, dude, it was like a couple hours. We sat on the phone, just, catching up, shooting shit. And then I was like, listen, man, like, sell me on this. Like, why should I try to do this? And, 2 hours later, we got off the phone. He sent me the link for the virtual, like the online school he did to get his license, paid for it, started doing the classes like that evening. And then, a few months later, finished it, passed the course, then applied to take my state test. Took my state test, passed it the first time, thankfully.
Nice.
And I walked out of there knowing I passed it. I mean, I don't think I've studied for anything that hard in my entire life. So I was like, I have to do this. Like, this has to work. Like, I put out so much time and money into like the schooling, which schooling wasn't that much, but I, went out and bought a whole bunch of new stuff, just knowing I was gonna do it, So all this time and money invested in it, I was like, I have to kick this test's ass. Like, there's no question about it. And thankfully I did. I don't know what my exact score was. It just, you sign into a thing, it just tells you pass or fail. And mine said pass. So then the brokerage that he owns, works for, it's a corporate company that has many branches throughout the country, well, throughout the world. And there's a branch up here. I went and interviewed with them, and then she was basically had the paperwork lined up, like laying out for me, waiting to sign it when I got there. So she, you just basically, it's, when it comes to being a realtor, I was basically interviewing them to see if I would want to, be contracted with them. So, and me and the broker there, we hit it off like immediately. It was like hanging out with my cool aunt. Like, she's just the best. Jen is just the greatest. And yeah, like it's the best. I mean, COVID, it was a blessing in disguise when it comes to certain things. Like, I never would have decided to get into real estate, and it's been, for me, I've been pretty successful at it so far. So it's going very well.
That's good to hear. Is it
Yeah.
does it feel weird, kind of like a double life? On one hand, heavy rock and roll, metal, whatever you want to call it, the life of a musician, drumming all across the country, and then at other times, your collared shirts, shaking
Yeah.
hands, signing papers.
Yeah, it's like right before like we started recording this, we chatted for what, like 30 seconds, and I was just warning you, like, hey, I'm waiting for a phone call that has to do with real estate. So like, if it comes in, I'm gonna have to take it. And then while I was telling you that, the guy was calling me, so I had to put you on mute. I had to go from about to do an interview about my band, Kevin, to businessman Kevin on the phone talking to this guy. So it's in a way, like, I've been asked this before, like, how was your transition from being a musician to real estate? Like, obviously it's two completely polar opposite industries, but the one thing I think that helped me out the most and that has the most in common is, like, most of my clients that I'm getting, like, leads I'm getting, are complete strangers, and I have to like talk to these complete strangers and like win them over to have me work for them and help them buy a house or sell a house. And I'd say the years of having to talk to complete strangers at shows,
Yeah.
meeting new bands that we're touring with, or, talking with fans, or, excuse me, doing interviews like this, or, doing podcasts, and the, communicating with strangers thing was definitely transferred very well.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely found something else that I'm really good at, and I never knew I would be good at it until I tried it. And yeah, it's probably it's almost, I'm thankful for COVID in a way for giving me an opportunity to find something else to do that wasn't working for someone else, because technically I'm my own boss, really. I decide if I want to work with a client or if I don't want to. Like, obviously if I'm in the middle of something, I have to be answering calls or doing emails if I'm under contract with someone. But if I, if someone in my office is like, hey, can you cover this or cover that? Like, if I have enough on my plate. I could, no, sorry. You can ask, ask the next person. Because I also don't want to, be taking every little thing I can. Um, I don't know. You just gotta, I think it's great. I love it. I can't complain. It's fun being able to also, you got a lot of people will know that I'm a newer agent and they'll try to like intimidate or like hardball. And it's just like, well, here's the thing, like without, basically saying things in a way where it's like, I did my research. I know what's going on here. I'm not some dumb new agent.
Right.
Like the guy I was just talking to, I can't go into details about anything because it's technically confidential stuff, but so he just thought like, oh, this kid's been doing this for a year. I'm gonna walk all over him. And it's just
Yeah.
at one point, not to pat myself on the back, but at one point I hit him with something that I said that like he had no response to. I was like, "Are you there?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying, man. Like that's a very good point." And I'm like, "No shit, asshole."
Yeah.
Like,
Once
so
that
yeah,
proven research comes out, it helps.
it's very cool. I just, it keeps me on my toes. It keeps me very busy when I'm at home. Um, and it's helping me, provide a life for my daughter right now. That's, it's, I spoil her maybe a little too much sometimes, but you know, basically anything to put a smile on that little girl's face is what's gonna make me the happiest. I know if it takes me having to sit on the phone with some guy and setting them straight just so I can get a paycheck in 2 months after signing a contract and whatever, as long as I can keep rolling those in and keeping her happy, then I'm good to go.
Yeah.
And then also being able to, when the band, once we start, can really start touring like we used to, that'll be fun again too. But the world is so different. I have no idea how that's gonna really pan out.
Yeah. And it seems like a great career, especially with the flexibility and the, I guess,
Yep.
somewhat uncertainty of how touring is going to be. So hopefully it's something, if there's other musicians looking for anything, they look into. And Dan, obviously was with Straight from the Path for a while. And
Mhm.
as far as I know, still does. They haven't put anything out in a while, but the band After Party with him and Drew, which I can't get
Mhm.
enough of those two projects they put out. So if Dan sees this, I'm waiting for more After Party.
I will. I'll text. I'm gonna text him right now because we were just talking earlier about something. Because actually, like my broker at my office, she was just installed as like the president for New York State's Association of Realtors. So she's like a big deal here in New York, and that's another reason why like I have basically the best of the best up here backing me and helping me with everything. And Dan knows her too, and they're fond of each other. They both know that they're as some couple of ass kicking brokers in a good way. Not
Yeah.
they're not going around giving people black eyes, but
Forcing people to buy.
yeah. But yeah, because I was just talking to him the other day to see if he was going to be up in Albany for any of that stuff, and he unfortunately wasn't going to be able to because he's got a bunch of stuff going on down in Long Island. But yeah, I'm gonna text him right now. I'm gonna say doing a podcast, and I mentioned you, and the guy wants to know when is more After Party coming
Yep.
out.
Yeah. Tell him it's been waiting on it. And then switch gears back to we'll jump out of business Kevin back to musician Kevin.
Back to drummer boy.
Yeah, there you go. What was the Ghost Inside show like?
Oh, absolutely fucking surreal. So, first off, they're one of our like best friend bands. Zach Johnson, the guitar player, and Griffin, our bass player. They grew up together in Des Moines, so they've been friends forever.
Okay.
They were in Two Pure to Die together. We've known Andrew from, this is well over 10 years ago. I can't even think what record we were touring on when we did a little short stint with For the Fallen Dreams when he was still playing drums with them. So we've known most of those guys for very, very long time. So we have lots of history. We've been friends forever. So out of all the bands they could have picked to play, we were one of them. So obviously it was, we were honored to do it. It was a no-brainer. It was, even if we made no money doing it, didn't care. Like everybody had to fly out that doesn't live around here to come meet at Vincent's to practice and everything. So, but yeah, I mean, surreal to be, so it was August. The high temperature that day was like 65. Very strange weather for a New England summer. Cloudy out, wasn't supposed to rain. It was like, a very slim chance. So what do you think happens when we're setting up on stage?
Started pouring rain.
Starts fucking downpouring. There's holes in the stage above us, so there's like water dripping down and like hitting me. We have this, very expensive new rig that we basically just got like a week before the show, to run all of our in-ears and everything, that if we didn't move it to a different spot because Tom's cables didn't reach a certain area, so we had to like move it to this really weird area on the stage. If we kept it where it was, there would have been a like fire hose strength amount of water just pouring through this hole in the stage. It would have just been pissing all over this gear. So of course and what other way would have happened, would have happened for us? Like super stressful, first time using all this new gear. It's pouring rain. We only have 15 minutes to get this stuff figured out and set up, and it was just absolute mayhem. And then all of a sudden it's like, we do our quick line check, and then it's like, all right, here we go. And the sample starts playing, and then you can hear it in our ears, and we're just like, holy shit. And the fact that there was like just over 7,000 people was just like, this is our first show back. And there's drone footage where you can see at one point there's like 5 mosh pits going on while we were playing. Like, the whole time I was just trying to soak it in as best as I can, just like treating it like I'm playing some little basement show in front of 10 people. I don't really get nervous playing shows anymore, but that show felt like it was my first show of my ever again, because on top of the click track thing, playing with the in-ears, being absolutely fucking batshit nervous about that, and then the fact that it starts fucking pouring rain, and you got like 7,200 people just standing there, scratching their necks waiting for us to play. It was just like, and we're scratching our necks waiting to play too, but even like me and Vincent were just like locking eyes while the sample's playing, and we're both just like mouthing to each other like, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck, holy fuck. Like it's like, it feels like you're going up a hill on like 1,000-foot roller coaster. And then as soon as the 4 count in our ears went, it was just autopilot from there. But it was just like playing any other show. But it was just, seriously, it was just everything about it, playing with them, playing with other bands, Every Time I Die, we've known them forever. It was just, there's very little ways to describe the feelings of playing that show. Like surreal is like the only word I can really think of right now, but it was just every emotion you could possibly think of. It was so intense.
Yeah, all the
Very
footage
intense.
I've seen that came out of it just looked like one of the craziest shows ever, especially everything they went through. And then obviously COVID, like you said, bands not being able to play, people waiting for music. Is playing outside, is that a huge difference than playing at like a decent sized indoor room, or does it not really affect you at all?
I mean, there's definitely a big difference as far as like, well, now using the in-ears, the difference I'm going to explain really isn't there anymore because you can hear everything. But when you're outside, there's more room for frequencies and sound to just go wherever the hell it wants.
Right.
Because, if you're playing in a place, everything's bouncing off stuff. It's a little more contained and condensed. But then, playing outside, you have to deal with the elements. Like in our case, that show, it started pouring rain when we were playing. Another example is, playing in Phoenix, Arizona date on like Vans Warped Tour. It's 120 degrees outside, and you should be sweating, but you aren't because it's immediately evaporating off your body while you're playing. Yeah, man, it was. I mean, playing outside is fun if it's like the perfect temperature, and obviously there's usually a lot more people there. Just the feeling and the atmosphere of it's completely different than playing inside. But I would prefer to be indoors than outdoors.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah. I know we've been running for a while here. Feels like we just started, but
yeah, we are gonna, if we keep going like super long here, like I know I'm having a grand old time, but I do have a 2:30 appointment where I'll have to leave my house at like maybe like 10 after 2 at the latest.
Perfect.
So
we'll go to the end of the show here, and then we'll do the bonus video.
We can always figure out a part 2 if there's more stuff you wanted to cover that we don't get to.
Yeah, I'm always down. But for this one, what I do at the end of every episode is we go through each album, and then I have the artist pick 2 to 3 songs that they would recommend for anyone that hasn't seen any of the past videos. This isn't necessarily the single for that record or the best performing. It's whatever Kevin thinks, if he had to recommend 2 to 3 songs from each album to someone that's never heard his band or anything like that. We'll start with 2006, The Dead Walk.
The Dead Walk, this is, I bet you could probably guess what 2 songs that I was going to say. And the first one is Whoa, Shut It Down. Because I think that one, so I don't know if you're familiar, like, obviously I'm sure you're familiar with Bruce Springsteen, but like every concert he plays, no matter what, since he wrote the song Born to Run, he plays that song every concert he's played since. That's the one song you can always guarantee you're going to hear it. Plays it every single time. Even before Dead Walk was released, back in the day when, you're a baby band and you play your new songs that aren't out yet, just to make your set longer, we basically started playing that song ever since we wrote it. And we've played it every single show since. So if there's one song from that record that you're going to definitely hear live, it's going to be Whoa, Shut It Down. On top of the fact that it's got, it's got like a big sing-along part before the breakdown where the crowd gets very involved. And sometimes that could be super intense at a show. Like when you just hear everybody screams, I'm giving up on you. It's just, even still to all of us, it's like, we'll like look back at each other like, oh, shit, like that was fucking crazy. Yeah. So we'll shut it down. And then the other song, I think my personal favorite is the song The Dead Walk. I think that was probably the most fun song for me to play on that record besides We'll Shut It Down. It's just a fun song, super heavy. Yeah, I'd say that's the 2 songs from that record I would suggest someone listen to. Title track and then Whoa, Shut It Down. Which, little fun tidbit about Whoa, Shut It Down, it's named after a Jerky Boys skit, the New Awnings skit. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Is that
when the guy calls, he's like, I forget if it's on Jerky Boys 1 or 2, but the skit's called New Awnings. And he calls up an awning company. He's like, I need to get some new awnings. And he's like pretending like he's working in a warehouse where these guys keep backing their trucks up into the awnings and breaking them down. And you can hear like the sound effect. It's like a truck backing up and the beeping noise. And he's like, whoa, shut it down, shut it down. That's where that came from.
I didn't know that was named after that. I love the Jerky Boys.
To a lot of Jerky Boys. Yeah, we listened to a lot of Jerky Boys before that record was out. It's a tour we did with Since the Flood. And that tour was just both of our bands respectively just listening to Jerky Boys in our vans and then just quoting it to each other like every day when we would get to the shows.
Yeah, I think the roofing company, the car salesman, and the truck driver, those are like the 3 best.
Yeah. And Saul Rosenberg is also that character is just the best.
Yeah. I like when he's talking about selling the car. He goes, the guy doesn't know if he wants to buy, he wants to sell. He, talks about smashing the guy's head in the car. And the guy's like, whoa, I can't have you doing that at my dealership.
Yeah. Was that Frank Rizzo? That character?
Yep, Frank Rizzo.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Those first couple Jerky Boys records are so good.
Yeah.
Like the kings of like they were the best of the first ones to really release a comedy record of prank phone calls. And it was just
pre-caller ID days too.
Best. Oh yeah. Yeah, you didn't know who the fuck was calling you. Love it.
All right, so then next we have 2008 The Continent. Well, not The Continent, but
Continent. we have C-Word, because that song, I don't think one riff in that song repeats. It's like 5 minutes of just riff after riff after riff after riff after riff. That's my most fun song to play. That song was there's a part in there like towards the middle where I'm doing like a China and like a tom beat over some guitar like ring outs. And the song actually was built off that part. Like I was just jamming that, just doing like a cool little noodly thing or whatever. And then I remember DL started like doing ring outs, and then we started writing a song, and then we're like, hey, that can go into that part we were just jamming can go next, because we would hit a roadblock. I was like, yo, what about that thing I was just doing and you were doing the ring outs? So yeah, that one. And then we just as we kept writing it, just was like, do we repeat something? And nothing felt right repeating. And then it was like, oh, well, I got this riff, and it just kept turning into riff after riff after riff. So that one's just a straight, just each riff just comes in and it's a whole new version of us trying to beat you up sonically. And then another song on Continent. I'd say our instrumental there at the end, Behemoth.
Yep.
That was definitely another favorite of mine on there. It's all instrumental, but it's got some stuff in there that could put you in the feels for sure. That's my favorite thing about, when a song can really just some notes and some patterns and some noise can completely make you feel a certain way. It's just, it's like magic.
Yeah.
So I'd say C-Word and Behemoth. Those are my two for Continent.
For me, Continent is obviously I like everything that's come out after it. Everything has been great, but Continent for me, that came out at the time of, wasn't too long after I discovered the Acacia Strain, and it was going from high school to a little bit of college to then in the military. So it was like very transitional period of my life. So like that album like carried through. So that's always, that's the album for me. That one's always up there.
You joined the military?
Yeah. Yeah. I was in the Army for a while.
Oh, well, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have military in my family, so it's kind of both my grandparents or grandfathers were in the military, a couple uncles that were in the military. So it's it's kind of one of those natural things when you see someone in the service or know someone that was in the service. I have to immediately thank you at some point.
Well, thank you.
So, well, yeah.
And then of course with Continent, JFC, that's another one's played every show, right?
Almost. That one we've kind of put on the back burner a little while.
Okay.
That's definitely a song that gets everyone going. It's a good one to get the crowd involved. But, we spent so many years literally playing almost the same set, like every tour, because we were just, for lack of better words, getting lazy. And like I said, we would just get together for a week before a tour and practice a couple times and then go, fuck it, punk rock style, we're just gonna go out and play our songs. And if people get upset that we don't play certain things, whatever. We're the ones up here that have to play it. So we were just, stuck in playing the same like 12 to 15 songs for like a few years. And then when we would put out a new record, we'd add maybe one or two of those songs to the set. But we've, I'd say grown in a way where we could, it's like, hey, we have this big catalog of songs, and there's a lot of songs that we've never played before that we always get asked to play, but we never do. So maybe we should try doing that.
Right.
So yeah, JFC that one's on the back burner for a minute. It'll be back soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, and like you said, definitely one of the ones that gets the crowd involved, and you get the goosebumps ready to drop.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have 2012.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was gonna say it was always fun at shows, because the way we'd always go into that song is we always figured out whatever song before it, the way it ends, we can just end it, everybody cut, and then Vincent would just immediately say, I'm the end of the world. And when you can look at the crowd and see people realizing what's like about to hit them, they're like, like, oh, like people getting so excited. So that was always cool to see. So I can't wait till I can see those reactions again when that song's about to kick in from people.
Cool.
But yeah, 2012, what came out in 2012?
Actually,
I know what came out.
We skipped 2010, Wormwood.
Yeah. Yeah,
We gotta go Wormwood.
everyone's favorite. I mean, I feel like that's our what most liked record. Um, so when it comes to songs on Wormwood, I think say Nightman, definitely one of my favorites. And Bottom Feeder. Bottom Feeder is one for me that it's kind of there's some parts in there that I can kind of just it just makes me feel a certain way when I'm listening to it and even playing it. A lot of good drum groove in that song. Same with Nightman. They're both just extremely fun to play. That whole record's fun to play. But I did learn that there's some songs that aren't exactly the most fun to play live after we did the entirety tour here. But yeah, those would be my two, Nightman and Bottom Feeder,
Okay.
which a lot of people still don't realize now, almost 12 years later, that BTM FDR is not the name of the song. It's Bottom Feeder. Because we'd hear that sometimes, in between songs, Vincent's talking and people will yell out song titles and you're BTM FDR. It's like, that's not even a song title of ours. Like, what?
You got to make a really long song title and remove all the vowels. That way, someone has to yell out like 20 letters.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Wait, what was that? Thanks for the memories. That Fall Out Boy song, and they remove all the vowels from the name of it, so it just looks like a mashup of letters.
Yeah, release a long one and then break it up into like groups of 4 letters and just see how long someone will yell out.
Right.
So then next 2012, Death is the Only Mortal.
So Death is the Only Mortal. That one is it's the last record we had with DL. That one, I mean, for me, that whole record is a favorite in a way. It's not everyone else's favorite, but for me, I think that one, drumming wise, for me, I think was probably one of the most I guess intense drumming that I've done on a record. There's a lot going on in a lot of those songs. But for me, 2 songs in that one, I'll say is Go to Sleep. Mostly because we got Kirk Weinstein from Crowbar to do guest vocals on that, which still blows my mind. And it's crazy that we've toured with them. Like, there's still bands that we've toured with in the past and that I'm sure either play festivals with or maybe tour with again that are like, like I was listening because my dad was a metalhead too. So I've been listening to Crowbar since like early 90s. So to me, like,
yeah, that's crazy.
Being on tour with a guy that I was listening to, where I was fucking, pissing my pants still. It's crazy to me. So Go to Sleep, and then I think Chambered Nautilus is probably my other one.
Okay.
That's another one that's got some feely parts, or like Brain Death. That was a fun song to play live, but it was also there's a lot of strange timing stuff in that song too. So it was kind of nerve-wracking to play it, because if it was one of those songs where if I like fucked up even the littlest thing, it could just completely train wreck it. Really? Everyone else. So especially in the intro, it's very strange counts in there and stuff. But yeah. Go to Sleep, and then Chambered Nautilus and Brain Death are tied for my second song.
Okay. Then we have 2014 Coma Witch.
I know it's technically side 2, but Observer is definitely, because at that point that was my favorite thing that we've ever done, was that song in itself. It's just about 30 minutes long. It's we won't talk about getting put in the feels. I know I've said this a few times. I hate to repeat myself so much, but that one will get you. And then how involved things got, like, the part in there where that woman is speaking. Like, Vincent wrote all that stuff for her to say.
Okay.
It was someone that worked at the studio's girlfriend. Her mother is like a voice actress, or a voice actor, and she read that part, and it was just like, that was like another like goosebump moment. Like, holy shit! Like, this is going to be on our record. Like, this is fucking crazy. That this it was just so cool. But Observer, and then I want to say maybe Holy Walls of the Vatican. I remember writing that drum roll intro at the studio. I remember Will Putney was sitting there. He was like, I feel like the song needs a drum intro. And it was a thrashy song. So my first thought was Slayer. Like, what would Dave Lombardo do here? And then I just, ripped this drum roll. And then I was like, how's that sound? And Will was like, that's cool. Do you remember what you just did? And I was like, I think so. And so then we just, did a few takes of it and then practiced it a couple more times, got exactly what I wanted to do down. And then was like, all right, well, here you go, space bar. And then fucking went through it. But I like that one because that song to me makes me feel a certain way because it, growing up was a lot of thrash metal was what I listened to. And I think that, that's basically mostly, a thrash metal song, an Acacia Strain version of a thrash metal song, you could say. So yeah, that one, it makes me, it's almost like, it's like a weird nostalgia feeling while playing that song, even though it's our own, it just gives me it makes me feel a certain way of playing it. So Holy Walls of the Vatican, and then whoever wants to take 30 minutes of their time and light a candle, turn the lights out, put on some earbuds and listen to Observer. Maybe eat a gummy or take a couple hits off a joint or something first and really lay back and relax and listen.
All right, and then next we have Grave Bloom 2017.
Grave Bloom. I want to say, so the first song I remember writing for that, or that first song that we really had some sort of demo for was Model Citizen. We've never got to play it live, but that song, it feels, it's got a special spot with me because that was one of the first songs that Griffin, once he joined the band, wrote for the band. And it was really like, that helps solidify too, because whenever you get someone new in a band, when it comes time to writing, you never know how it's going to go. I know he was in other bands before, and it was good stuff, but you never know how it's going to be when you're just trying to write, you in the vein of your band,
right, that
you're in, So I was like, that was, the solidifying thing for him, where it was like, oh, fucking Griff can rip. So this is sick. I like this a lot. So Model Citizen, and then the other one, oh my God, I have to look this up. I can't think of the name of it right now. It was literally written in the studio the day that I tracked it. It was me and Devin sitting across from each other. So we had the riff, and then we just literally wrote it on the spot, maybe wrote the song in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Oh my God, I'm gonna feel like such an idiot once I finally see it. And this is my own band. I should know my own band's song titles. Oh my God. Walled City. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have remembered that. Walled City. I remember writing that song. That's another one where there's just, the beginning is just a straight drum roll for forever, basically. And as I'm recording this and wrote it, I'm like, I just fucked myself now, because if we ever play the song live, I'm gonna have to like go to the gym and like get in shape just to play this damn song. So the fact that like me and Devin were able to just sit there and just lock in so quickly based off of one riff and then just carry it into a full song as quick as we did, that's another one that, let's say, Model Citizen and Walled City are my two for Coma Witch or Grave Bloom.
Okay. Sorry. And then 2019 comes in waves. I know that's,
you gotta just press play.
Yep.
Press play, baby. Enjoy the ride. I can't really tell you I enjoy one section more than the other. It's meant to be one big piece of music. So it's another one like Observer. Turn the lights out, throw the earbuds in, lay back, and enjoy. Especially if you listen on earbuds, there's stuff going on in the background that you can't hear just listening into your car.
Yeah.
Or over your Bluetooth speaker. If you got some earbuds in, don't blare it, don't blast it, because you're not going to hear everything. So listen to it on a decent volume, and you'll be able to hear, because you don't want, there's certain things going on at different frequencies that'll get eaten up if you put them on full blast. So listen to it at about halfway. Make sure no one will bother you. Just close your eyes and listen and kind of scare yourself a little bit.
There you go. When you guys did that tour recently where you played it, I know you played the whole thing, but did you play it straight through or were there breaks where the tracks are?
Mhm. No breaks.
Just straight through?
But it's one song. I know it's like broken up like the way it, how it's written, there is a track listing, so it is kind of annoying when, if I'm listening to it to practice and I forget to turn shuffle off on Spotify, and then it goes to like a completely wrong section. But it is meant to be listened to in one shot. It's not 7 tracks. It's one song.
Right.
That's, part, A, B, C, D, so on and so forth.
And then we have most recent 2020 Slow Decay we talked about earlier.
Slow Decay. So Slow Decay was, see that this is going to be a difficult one. All right, I'm just gonna have to say 2 songs quickly because I could sit here and think about this forever. Because if you asked me this tomorrow, I'd probably have 2 other favorite songs. But I'll say Seeing God and Crippling Poison. Actually, no, I'm changing that right now. Seeing God and I Breathe in the Smoke.
Okay.
I think Zach Hatfield from Left Behind's guest spot in the beginning of I Breathe in the Smoke. If I listen to it still, like it just gives me goosebumps. And then I remember when he recorded that guest spot, that was before we did the tour with Chelsea Grin and Left Behind at Griffin's studio, because me and Tom both filled in for Left Behind on that tour. So Left Behind came and hung out with us there so we could practice. And I just remember Zach recording that part and just being like, yo, Vincent, like, these lyrics are fucking sick, man. Like this is awesome. Like, holy shit. And that, I gotta say, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's Zach's part is great and Zach sounds amazing and it fits so well, but it's like my favorite lyrical part that Vincent wrote for the record, I think. And it's not even him saying it. So it's like, but yeah, I Breathe in the Smoke and Seeing God, my 2 favorite songs on that record.
Yeah,
You better move on because I'm gonna start switching it again.
No, I was just gonna say, obviously, Crippling Poison's amazing, and it seems like that one's been incredibly well received. And then
I gotta give you real quick a fun fact about that song. So I'm going through some shit part where
Yep.
all the music stops. That was not like that at first. Music was going through. Randy, when he was editing, he had that section muted. The music was muted there and he forgot to unmute it. So the music's playing and all of a sudden it just stops and you just hear Vincent go, I'm going through some shit, and then it kicks back in. He was like, oh, did I just make a great mistake right now? So then he took a video of it and he was like, guys, I think I just made this song like, I think I just made this song way bigger than what it would have been. And we were all like, yep, you need to keep that because holy shit, that was probably the best mistake you could have made for this record. So sometimes, mistakes can turn out to be blessings, especially like for that song. And now like we finally got to play that song live and like on this last tour. And we were hoping for, the crowd to catch on for that part. And it's weird thinking that at that point the record was out for almost 2 years and it was the first time getting to play it live. So thankfully people had enough time to know what was coming. So I remember the first time playing that song live and hearing a whole room full of people scream, I'm going through some shit. Like, talk about goosebumps. Like it was pretty emotional, I would say, because it was like, you don't know if people are still going to even give a shit about your band after not being able to do anything for so long. And thankfully that tour was a reminder that, we still got it. Us old men in our Depends and mothballs, we still got it.
still got it. And I think the silence there in that pause, especially with, I feel like reading the lyrics, like it really fits, all this chaos that he's going through. And then it's like this culmination where it just stops and then just goes crazy again.
Mhm. Yeah, it was just it was the perfect mistake for sure. The best mistake Randy could have made.
Yeah. Perfect mistake. Lined up perfectly, made the track, like you said, even better. And then obviously more crowd
Yeah, it
engagement.
made it. Oh, it made that song what it is, in my opinion. Because it's like the whole time we're playing that song, it's like building up to that part, and you can see everybody in the crowd. It's like it's building up to the part where they get to all fucking scream their heads off.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great that it turned out the way it did.
Perfect. Well, there it is. So we went through all the records you've played from for the Acacia Strain, and hopefully many more to come. We're waiting on it. I know not spring, but eventually.
Hey, it's coming, but y'all gotta be patient.
Yeah. Well,
we
we
got
got
lives
spoiled
going
with
on, man. There's still a yeah.
yeah, we got spoiled
Yeah,
with
well, yeah, we put
It
out
Comes in Waves and
yeah, we
Slow
put out It
Decay.
Comes in Waves, and then yeah, it was all within 6 months of each other. But yeah, it's the world's very different. Everybody's gotta be patient. We got things going, but it's still the ingredients are still sizzling in the pot. It's not a full brew going yet.
Well,
So
it'll be worth the wait. So with that,
I would hope so.
yeah, it will be.
I hope so.
So with that, we'll wrap up the regular episode, and then we're gonna jump over and do the bonus video. I have a few rapid fire questions for you, something real quick, and then we'll get you out of here. To everybody that's watched, thank you. If you're listening, thank you. Appreciate it. Be sure to check out Kevin. I'll link all his socials in the actual episode notes as well, and then it's up here over my shoulder as well. But thank you,
There it is.
everybody.
Thank you.